Although we can use queries to sort our data and to filter out the columns that we actually see, the biggest reason for using a query is to actually filter out the records that we can see. In our customer table, for example, TBL customers, there are 18,508 records. Now, the chances are that any particular scenario would involve us only using a section of those customers. In order to extract and deal with and work with only a selection, we need to query and filter the data. So in order to filter the data, we need a query. So it's a new query in design based on our customers table. So as ever, the first choice here is which fields would we like to see. That's first name, last name, email address, phone, city, country, and let's see their marital status and their gender. If we view that currently, that's all 18,000 customers. Let's widen the columns to fit. Notice I did them all at once by highlighting them all and going to the top right of the headers and double click there. So how do we filter some of these out based on various criteria? Well, the criteria row is this row here. Biggest thing to bear in mind when you use the criteria row is that you are looking at the correct column. So for example, if I want to filter by some of the text columns, which is what we're going to deal with at the moment, and I want to filter out and only see those people whose surname is Brown, I would need to be in the last name column in the criteria box and simply type Brown. Now the data in Access is not case sensitive, so I don't need to put a capital B or worry that some people have put capital B's and some not. What you will find when you leave the criteria box, either by going left, right or down, so let's come down, is that Access places speech marks around the word that I've typed in. So I know it's treating it as a text string, and I could have typed the speech marks if I'd wanted to. But as Access puts them in for me, let's save a little bit of typing. If I now view the result, I see a chopped down result, massively chopped down to 82 customers with the surname Brown. Back into design, I then can remove Brown by tabbing into it and delete. Let's try a different criteria. Let's try Powell, P-O-W-E-L-L. And again, when I leave the criteria box, it gets speech marks around it. And view, and I see those people whose surname is Powell, 116 of them. Back into design. So this is the pattern really for any of your fields that contain text data. The gender field, for example, contains simply an M or an F. So if I'm looking just for females, I can put an F. Again, when I leave, it puts speech marks around it. And when I view, I then see only female customers, of which there are 9,143, so approximately half. Again, back on and delete. Marital status M for married. Notice as I start typing, a function exists with that letter. Access tries to get me to use one of those functions. That's okay. I just ignore that and carry on. So M, escape if the list convinces itself to stay there. And when I leave the criteria box, I get my speech marks. So I know I'm happy. And all my selection are married. And there are 10,000. So that's simply enter the text. Access will assume it is text because the field is a text field. And then use that as the criteria. If you want to be on the safe side, you could type those speech marks yourself. If I'm in the country region name and I'm looking for Canada, so I open and close the speech marks manually. And when I view, I only see the Canada customers, 1,571 of them, in fact. Now, at any point when you're filtering like this, you can save that as a query. So I could save this as QRY Canada customers, change the criteria to Australia, view, and I see there's 3591. I would need to make sure I did a save as at this point because I've already called this the Canada customers, but I want to save it with a different name. So that's file, save as. I'm only saving the object, so save object as, save as, and then QRY Australia customers. Let's lose the copy of that Access has placed itself. That gives me another query. So I've got Australia and Canada customers. So remove the Australia and put in M for married. Now this time for the save as, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut F12 because that takes me straight to the save as box instead of me having to go through save as, object, then give it a name. So it's QRY married customers. Okay, and that saves me a third query. So each of these queries are inside my query list, and at any point I could just double click to rerun, and I'll get to see the Australian customers. I'll get to see the Canada customers. I get to see the married customers. So straightforwardly for text filtering, which is probably the easiest filtered, we simply place the value in the field that it needs to apply to. That's probably the trickiest bit to remember, to place the right criteria in the right field. If I placed an M in the country region name, I don't have a country that's called M. So I've got to place the right criteria in the right field to see the correct result, and then I can save that as a query name so that I can rerun it at any stage. I don't have to recreate the query in design view and place the criteria in again. I simply rerun the query I've already saved.